Hello, dear Chi. I'm recording here live in my street, colonized, as you can see, by cars. It's actually quite a tiny street, and roughly 80% are owned by cars. So as you know, I've been invited by the Web Lab Effect and Colonialism to speak about the car and coloniality, and I thought you would be a great conversational partner to discuss coloniality between Calcutta, the streets of Calcutta, and the streets of Vienna, Austria. My first question addresses the kind of ambiguity of affect and colonialism in car, because by many leaders of so-called the global south or the third world, to actually build a car industry, an automotive industry, an automotive culture was regarded as a decolonial move. For example, Jawaharlal Nehru, the first Prime Minister of India, explicitly stated that it's a decolonial necessity to build an automotive industry and therefore an automotive culture to decolonialize India from colonial dependence. But I wonder if at the same time the car is not also a means of a deeper level that colonializes our effects, that colonializes our spaces, that colonializes our central regime in a way that was first brought up and developed in the West, and thereby on a maybe deeper level than the mere economic level one colonializes the spaces around the globe even more according to Occidental regimes. So to just give a couple of examples of what these colonializations entail, the usual car has 4 to 5 seats, which of course is perfectly catered to the heteronormative couple, 2 men and women with 2 children. So the classical family, which was created during industrialization, European industrialization, is kind of the backbone, the private backbone of modern capitalism, and was then also brought about in the entire world. Another aspect would be the central regime, that you have to focus on visual information and kind of have to repress the auditive and the smell if you're surrounded all by cars, because you couldn't really take it otherwise. And oculocentrism and logocentrism is very much a Western thing, which created Western reason and also entitled it to oppress other forms of relating to the planet. So I would be really interested to hear your take, maybe also from the streets of Calcutta, of what your take on the ambiguity of colonialism and the car is. Yeah, thanks. Hope to hear from you soon.
Thank you so much for this opportunity and also sharing the interest you have regarding specific interest towards post-coloniality in the automobile industry and their growth and how it has been changed or evolved. Right now I'm in India, specifically very close to a city called Kolkata, or it also known as Calcutta. I'm not exactly in Calcutta, but I'm the other side, like it's surrounded with the river, and I'm other side of the city. So just for where I'm right now, I'm sharing this audio note with and like audio video note with you. I kind of took a long break after you have shared with me your comment or your curiosity with me. But if I be super honest with you, like why, it's not just because of my health with COVID, but it's also about the integrity of the subject, because you kind of open up a lot of windows, and I'm constantly thinking that how and what is the best way I can respond, because like every single word I'm picking up from your your thoughts, it kind of allowing me to go and visit a lot of different avenues, like of course in consideration your streamline, considering the periphery which you are trying to set according to this post-colonial critical understanding of your or the what we have, right? But still I have an argument on that, like because it seems like very linear subject, but it's not, like especially living in a country like India, who have a long and very heavy baggages of coloniality, like how we are going to defend ourselves and how we are going to project an like image which can be critical, but at the same time somehow give us an opportunity to understand what's really happening in terms of because most of the theory, when I try to understand or decodify their algorithm, I felt like there's still there are a lot of white west gaze in terms of its application. So I was a bit confused, but like what I have so what I did, like if you can see that I'm come back with some notes, and still I'm working as if like I felt that connection, like some level at least, like what you try to share with me. The place I'm right now here, it's a bridge which had kind of evolved post 90s, like, and why I'm picking up this bridge and place, because it somehow connected with a lot of signifiers. One of them will be the massive globalizations and its effect towards our life, like which are not used to be that fast or super hurry in some sense in the mode. So what is that? Like what is bothering me? Like when I'm looking at your ideas, and what are the things which are kind of pushing me to come back to you and sharing some point. Probably we can further have discussed what I have mentioned, that we need a couple of more this sort of intertwined dialogues, and that probably going to be more healthy for us, because it's never going to be one single way of projecting one single idea of what happened after post-colonial impressions in the car industry or automobile industry. Rather, it's going to be a sort of a dialogic primarily between you and me, and then probably we can think further that how we can embed them in our further discussions, like in future further discussions. So my intervene towards your subject will be more from a subcultural, curatorial, independent practitioner and researcher point of lens, I would say. And very specifically, I want to intervene, or I want to share my thoughts, like where propositions in according from specifically the gender role which has been set, like in condition of replacing the binary or satisfying the binary, while we are mapping the car as a tool for everyday whatever livelihood, or it also starts as like that will come slowly, because I am kind of trying to break them if it make any sense for us. So at the very beginning, what I have pointing out for my own understanding, like what I'm trying to talking about with you, right? So I felt that there is a missing link. The missing link is what? Missing link is very simple. It's a discourse. It's a discourse that which is there, but which is probably not understood, or like kind of deconstruct, like it's that way it's supposed to be. Like it always seen in a very, like I'm talking about from here, like the car and its application from very elite white need perspective. But does it really like that? Who own the car and what kind of like system? Both, like for example, who are producing the car and who's owning the car? Because while we are having the fast discussions, and I kind of two hand, like I was discussing a couple of my friends who are into like data survey and working for marketing for the big car companies, and I was taking like some feedback, like what is it about and how is it about? Is it like whatever I'm thinking, is it make any sense, or it has a very different numbers and figures? So that challenged me, and that's kind of giving me a new awakening, like, or maybe my theory and the practical scenario are very different, like in terms of its acceptance, right? And that we will definitely going to talk about, like who are the consumer of the car, especially when I'm like checking and reconsidering the gender role. Second side is like more the political side of like the environment, the political environment. When I'm looking at the car industry, a lot of things happen that if you want, we can talk about. A lot of protests happen in car industry over here to stabilize the economics, and to also like in terms of foreign funding and like foreign negotiations, like when they are mapping or making the car scenario. So I would like to bring in our curiosity with very simple root, like the discourse. Like, and when I'm talking about the discourse, is primarily talking about it is something which it's basically a manifestation. It's a manifestation about pros and cons towards a new India. And when I'm talking about the new India, it basically try to mean a middle class new India, which is being kind of underestimated for various reasons. One of the reasons will be this massive late capital scenario, like what happened, especially from when I'm looking from the West, especially post after Brexit. Like, what are the influence we can have, like, in our space? So that's probably one things like which I like to address in our comment and in our further discussion. Second thing, like, you were talking about that appropriations, or what I try to mean by saying appropriation, that orchestrations, right? Like how you orchestrate this crisis. And therefore, what I found that one thing is missing, that is the foregrounding of topics. And when I'm thinking about the foregrounding of the subject, one thing I'm pretty sure is missing. I don't know how to, like, we need to talk a lot on that note. Like, the missing is that we kind of imagine the car as a tool for a specific class, but that is not reality anymore over here. Of course, there are, like, post-Nehruvian period, like, we try to create a scenario or situation, sort of environment where Hindustan Motor played a huge role, and they kind of come up with things probably which allow or a large scale of us to imagine a new India. But that new India is not anymore over here. Like, we are far advanced in terms of a lot of things, in terms of the rural, like, from like rural to urban development, and also because it's a massive peri-urban effect happened over, I think, 1 decade, and that probably changed the entire the system or the algorithm between need, demand, and want crisis. So that is something I need to talk about and I need to address. Like, if you, and particularly this conversation will be more like I'm projecting some of my curiosity, so you probably can help me with more probably reflections. So I will be more very specific, like what are the things we can talk about. But yes, one thing is the discourse. Like, discourse, I'm talking about the manifestation of this entire policies, like pros and cons, like who's going to, like, own and how they're going to own. What are the things will be very similar in terms of while they're making the things, and many other. I'm talking about the more economics part, and then we're talking about the other side, which is said the foregrounding of the politics, like the consumer politics, like who are the consumer and what are they expecting for us. Third probably is going to be a bit complicated, which I don't know how to. This is something I kind of found while I was researching for us, which is also very important arena probably in post-colonial discussions. I think I would say this is a mimicry, right? Like, I was looking at a lot of models by Hindustan Motors, like, because it's kind of trying to provoke that it's a atmosphere they're trying to establish over India, where we can imagine that we're capable enough and we are, like, empowering ourselves. But then I'm looking at the model and the drawing and the pattern of the cars which have been evolved from post 47 onwards. I was very specific about that, till up to 10-15 years, like, were exactly the same model. And if I say one model like Ambassador, check it out, like, probably you know that, like, Ambassador is one of the world highest running model by any car company, if I'm not super wrong. Like, it's a kind of record. But the model was inspired by another British companies, like, who are the collaborator of Hindustan Motor at that time, and so on. Like, so that is another thing. So that mimicry remind me that there is a very hidden, I would say, hybridity effect is there. And probably, if you like, we can address, like, in our further discussion, because if that we start addressing, I would love to. This is some of the things which I probably going to come up in our further. Probably you can share some of your queries, and probably I can reflect. That one thing will be that how and what are the way, like Homi Bhabha was mentioning about this mix and multicultural effect in here, and parallelly, I will trying to, this is something else what I kind of mentioned in my note, that can I bring your attention towards this very specific what I call binarism, like the relation between, I'm not talking about just this car, but think about the car as a property where a lot of things are like probably incorporating. One is of course the gender role. Second, the way it had been the way it had been designed, the entire frame I'm talking about. Also, the moment you endorsing car, especially engine, and do you know it reminded me something back, like when Calcutta was not Calcutta, but Calcutta was basically a combination of three villages, and colony established, and then they had the port, and immediately they involved with a lot of things. One of them will be, and one of them was that having a faster traveling system. So they developed the tram, and immediately that they realized that we need a movement, a speed. And the same thing what I have noticed, like when we got independent, Nehru probably imagined the similar feelings, that we need our own movement, especially in terms of engine and car and speed and these notions. And so that is probably another, I would say it, like the way it has been, it has, of course there is a political side of that, but I would comment on this like a double consciousness, like it, which is very similar like a binary effect, the way very specifically the way Derrida was mentioning in one of the book is called the double session. And I found this relation between colony and colonial, like the people who are from the colonies, and it is not always very simple, because at the one hand it has an institutional baggage, but at the same time it also kind of defending that the existing structuralism. So I'm interested to talk about that binary, while that car can be seen as a form of like very mundane binary which is still here with us. And so these are the most the things I would like to address, and probably I would like to summarize for this small quick fast feedback to you, that maybe in the next I was very curious like how we're going to respond, and maybe I'm going to feedback more, and I'm very intrigued by that. Like I'm still thinking, and there are a lot of things because you already said 8 minutes, but I still think we need some more to talk about, to map, because there are a lot of things in my mind. They are very algorithmic, and they have the maps, like a very infographic map, and they all connected with each other in some sense. Like, so let's share your views, and I'm super happy that you thought that we can contribute each other with our commentary. So that's for now, Killian, and I kind of summarize my note with this small kind of queries or curiosity, like, because I was taking reference from a lot of my previous research thing, and I found, I don't know where I traveled, but I traveled somewhere which is a bit rural part of Bengal, and I kind of remarked myself that, of course, quote from a very important scholar of our time, that can subaltern at all drive? Because when I'm thinking about car, and it's the huge effect, like especially what happened after we introduced one of the cheapest car probably in the world, which is I don't know in terms of like how much will be euro, but in Indian rupees wise it is just 1 lakh, so which is like 100,000 or something like that. And yes, and that probably changed the entire image of having a car. Because if I go back to my childhood, like my grandmother used to say that they are very fascinated with having a white ambassador, same car which I was talking about. But that probably I'm going to discuss even further, that the expectation from the white supremacy, because when I'm looking at a lot of post-colonial literature, this effect has always been there, that I want to appropriate myself from something else which is far west. And probably that effect also happened with us in here. So let's talk more, and I'm excited to having more further discussions. Bye.